Welcome and thank you for joining. In this lesson, we'll explore addition and subtraction of rational expressions. The goal of the lesson is to go over the process of adding and subtracting rational expressions with polynomial denominators and then learn how to write the final answers in the most simplified form. Recall that when stating the final answer, it is best to leave it not only in the most simplified but also factored form. The reason why is because through factored form, we're able to simplify rational expression, and where we have completely factored, we have checked all the possible factors and ensured that the expression or the final answer is indeed in the most simplified form. Remember that to add fractions, we need to make the denominator the same as the lowest common denominator. So when we add rational expressions, which are fractions that contain polynomial expressions in numerator and denominator, we must make the denominator same as the lowest common denominator. Now, the lowest common denominator is the lowest common multiple of all denominators. So the word lowest doesn't necessarily mean it's the smallest. The denominator, the lowest common denominator, is a multiple, but the smallest multiple of all of them. So let's get to practice with finding the lowest common denominator in some polynomial expressions. So first we have two binomials, 3a minus 9 and 4a minus 12. So step number 1 is to factor each expression. So I would list the factors of 3a minus 9 as 3 and a minus 3. And then I would list the factors of 4a minus 12, which are 4 and a minus 3. As you can see in this case, a minus 3 is a common binomial, so it's a common factor in binomial form. And in addition, we have factor 3 for the first and factor 4 for the second. So just like we do with numbers, we find lowest common denominator or lowest common multiple of numbers. So in this case, to find the lowest common multiple of these expressions, we are going to list a minus 3 only once because it's common. And then the other factors will be the factor of 3 and then the factor of 4. And the lowest common multiple in our case will be a minus 3 times 4, which can also be written as, we like to combine the monomials, 4 and 3 in our case, so they're both numerical monomials, so in numerical form. So 12 times a minus 3, and this would be the lowest common multiple of 3a minus 9 and 4a minus 12. So what that means is that the lowest common multiple, 12a minus 3, is divisible by 3a minus 9, so divides evenly into 3a minus 9. What does that mean? It means that if you have 12a minus 3 and 3a minus 9, which in factored form is 3 times a minus 3, it will divide evenly, meaning that the answer will be equal to 4. So there are 4 of such factors. So even factors into, so 4 of 3a minus 9 into the lowest common multiple. So in the same way, we reason about the other factors. So 12a minus 3, in the meantime, is divisible or divides evenly into 4a minus 12, which is, in other words, 4a minus 3, and the answer is 3. So into 12a minus 3, we have 3 of the 4a minus 12, right? So in the same way, we reason about the next set of binomials or expressions. So we're going to start with the first one, which is 2y minus 3. And y squared minus 9 can be written as y minus 3, y plus 3. So my favorite way of finding the lowest common multiple of expressions is by breaking the expressions down into factors. And whichever factors are common, I list them below each other. So now I know that the lowest common multiple would be equal to, and I'm going to bring down the first factor, which is a factor of 2. The second factor, which is y minus 3. And the last factor, which is, see, y plus 3. Here we go. Let's make this more interesting here. So y plus 3. And therefore, we're going to say the lowest common multiple is 2 times y minus 3 times y plus 3. So what that means is that 2y minus 3, y plus 3 divides evenly into 2y minus 6, which is 2y minus 3. So as you can see, this simplifies, and we have y plus 3. So we divide without having any remainders in there. And the same thing can be said about 2y minus 3, y plus 3, that's the lowest common multiple, divides evenly into y squared minus 9, which is y minus 3, y plus 3. And the answer would be precisely 2. Now let's take a look at another example, and I encourage you to try these on your own. So I'll stop the video and you can try it on your own. So first, we're going to write x squared plus x in factored form. So we're going to break it down into factors. So first, lowest common, the greatest common factor. So then we have x plus 1. So 2x squared plus 2x. So we have a factor of 2, a common factor of x, in brackets, x plus 1. As you can see, the only common factor we see here is x plus 1. So when we find the lowest common multiple of these two polynomials, then we're going to say that we have a common factor of x. We have a common factor of x plus 1. And we also have a factor of 2. So the lowest common multiple is 2x times x plus 1, which means that this lowest common multiple, which is a polynomial, is divisible by each of the polynomials. Now, in the next example, we have x squared plus 5x plus 6. So again, we're going to break this down into factors, which are x plus 3, x plus 2. And then we have x squared plus x minus 2. So we are going to write this in completely factored form. I will start with an x. Two numbers that multiply to negative 2 and add to positive 1 would be positive 2 and negative 1. So, oopsie. So what I would do is I would list the common binomials right below each other, and I would reserve a spot for the binomials that don't have any common factor with the other expression. So as you can see in here, we have x plus 3. We have x plus 2, which is common, so that means we only have to write it once. And then we have x minus 1. So the greatest or the lowest common multiple would be x plus 3, x plus 2, and then x minus 1. So we're going to say that x plus 3, x plus 2, x minus 1 is divisible by